to the Relentless CEO Podcast.
Relentless!
With Adam Kifer. Follow your path to success alongside icons and industry leaders in martial arts, fitness, and more. Let's go. This is the Relentless CEO Podcast.
And welcome to another episode of Relentless CEO Podcast. Little different setting. I am out of town visiting family in Chicago, but nevertheless, we're bringing to you a great episode that's really going to help to do a personal inventory and just to help gauge where you are in your business compared to where you want to be and how to bridge that gap. It is an awesome episode. This is taken from one of our coaching calls with our Relentless CEO Mastermind. So you guys are also getting a sneak peek into the type of training and coaching that they get on a regular basis. So enjoy, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. We got this recording. We're going to jump right into this. If you guys didn't hear me earlier, if you're signing on, please have a piece of paper with you because we're going to go over and do a self-audit of some things today so we can sort of assess where we are at this halfway point through the year and what we can do better as showing up as the best version of ourselves. I don't know about you guys. I find that throughout the year, I'm probably doing hundreds of self-audits on just different areas of my life and how I can show up better / perform better, get better results, all of the following. And we're going to go over sort of a self-assessment today. So what I would love for you guys to do is we're going to do 6 categories. Okay, so you can just number 1 through 6. I put some space in between each number on a piece of paper. And then let's say I have number 1 at the top. I'm going to write numbers 1 through 10 next to it. And then after number 2, write numbers 1 through 10, because we're going to be doing a self-score on a level of 10 for these categories we're about to jump into. Sorry, let's do 1 through 7. I said 1 through 6. We'll do 1 through 7. All right. Today's word of the day is going to be consistency. So you're going to hear me talk about this a lot because consistency is what yields consistent results. So I always think of this as inputs and outputs, right? So there's certain inputs that if we're more consistent with, we get more consistent outputs. And we're going to talk about sort of the 7 things that we specifically can control as the CEOs and owners of our business. So number 1 that we're going to write down is growth consistency. Okay, and I'm going to give you guys some prompts, and then I'm going to have you rate yourself, and then we're going to go over how we can improve each one of these numbers. So growth consistency, I think of this as being, how am I being intentional about my own growth and development? Is my daily actions consistent and in alignment with my goals? So for you guys, if you had to rate how intentional and consistent you are about putting time and energy into your own growth, so I would say that is going to be things like showing up to these calls, showing up to mastermind meetings, reading books consistently, or audiobooks or podcasts that are helping you to level up your skills, turn your weaknesses to strength. If you had to rate yourself on 1 to 10 on how consistent you are with being intentional on your growth, how would you rate yourself? So if I was rating myself a 10, I would probably put it as like, I'm reading every single day. I'm always showing up to my calls for the masterminds that I'm in. I'm intentionally growing to develop a specific skill and not just absorbing information to absorb information. Because there's definitely times that personally I will get in phases where I'm just like listening to audiobooks, and it's just sort of background noise because I'm not being intentional about what I'm trying to learn. So everyone just rate themselves scale of 1 to 10. Okay, and then what I would like you guys to think about is, let's say you rated yourself as a 6. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to write down is what needs to happen in order to get me from a 6 to a 10. What needs to change, or what do I need to do better with when it comes to growth consistency to go from being a 6 to being a 10? Okay, and while you guys are writing that down, I'm just going to switch settings real quick, so don't go anywhere. Remember, after we rate ourselves, then we're going to determine, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is our rating? And then what is going to take us to a 10? Okay, so what's going to be the thing to get us a 10? Let's just do this with a darker marker. Okay, for those of you guys that are not at a 10, I'm not at a 10, I know that. What are some of the things that you guys wrote down that you feel like you need to do in order to get to a 10?
I put implementing more. I need to implement. I feel like I'm constantly learning new things, and then I get overwhelmed with all the things that I need to implement. So if I can implement more, I feel more accomplished, and then I can show up more.
Good. So now I'm going to challenge you. That was a great answer, Larry. Now I want to challenge you is, well, what needs to change about what I'm currently doing to implement compared to what I should be doing? So I know for me, when I get into periods of not implementing at 100%, it's usually me just not being focused on the right things and not prioritizing the right things. I find myself, I'll start prioritizing things I like to do instead of the things I need to do when I'm not in implementation mode. So like these little self audits and resets are good for this because it like calls us out on our own bullshit, which is why I have to do hundreds a year for myself because I got a lot of bullshit I got to call myself out on. Thank you for sharing that. What else, guys? Who else has one they wrote down to get them from where they are on a scale of 1 to 10 to a 10?
Some focus blocking, focus time, and creating an action plan, like actually lay out what needs to happen daily.
Focus plan, time management plan. I think all of those are great. This is another one that I will look at pretty consistently. If I find myself not performing where I want on the scale of 1 to 10 in some of these, it's usually because I originally had it in my time blocking, and then at some point it fell off of my time blocking. So a lot of times it's just going back and reassessing my time blocking and being intentional about that time. With the implementation, this can sort of tie into what we're doing with the time blocking in the sense of sometimes we can get too generic with our time block. So for example, if we put like 3 hours of deep work, what are we actually doing in those 3 hours? What are we actually focusing on within those 3 hours to actually get traction on the implementation and to put things into action? Because deep work can turn into busy work and not productive work. So if you're struggling with implementation and you have like time blocked off to actually get shit done on your calendar, be more specific. So like, for example, Sundays, I go through my week and I take the tasks I need to do and I actually plot them out in my deep work time block. So I know, hey, Monday from 3 to 5, I'm working on these 3 tasks. And then Tuesday from 3 to 5, I'm working on these tasks. So something that can help you out. For me, I'm making the rest of 2024. My goal is to be the most oblivious person on the planet when it comes to sports, pop culture, or the news. And what I mean by that is I'm not sacrificing, but I'm trying to remove all TV, all movies completely out of my life. Okay. And using that time and energy to be more intentional about reading or writing or creating. Okay. So for me, growth consistency personally happens when I'm creating more and being intentional about finding time to create. And then for me, it always ties directly to reading and courses. Okay, if I start falling off consistency and reading, like it also just I think affects imposter syndrome a little bit. You start to like lose some confidence in the abilities and things that you are already good at, just because you're not constantly crafting that skill. Okay, it's like us as martial artists. If we go a year without practicing, okay, we're not going to have the same confidence we step on the mat to teach or step on the mat to demonstrate something, as opposed of us being someone that's consistently training every single week, multiple times. Okay, next thing. So number 2 on here. Okay, we're talking health consistency. Some of you guys are going to feel called out after this. Okay, health consistency. So I want you guys to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 again. What is health consistency? So this is the fuel we're putting in our body, okay, the exercise that we're doing, how consistent we're doing with the exercising. A lot of times I will attribute this, I don't know if you will, to clarity and energy. If I don't have mental clarity and I don't have like energy to get through the day and kick ass throughout the day, it's usually tying back to me being inconsistent with my health. So either I'm not eating right, I'm not taking my supplements consistently, I'm not working out consistently. So what is our scale, or what is our number for 1 to 10 on health consistency? And then we're going to do the same thing. So let's say I put that I'm at a 6. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down, well, what do I need to do to take it from a 6 to a 10? So for me, where I've been lacking on this, well, since I almost burned my foot off, working out the last couple weeks, I haven't been able to because of my foot. But before that, I would say it's pretty consistent. Eating, I'm healthy until like 7 o'clock. If I ever eat after 7 p.m., it's usually like crap food. So my goal is to make sure that I stop eating every night by 7 p.m. Because I know if I do that, I'm not going to eat bad food. One of the things, a couple of hacks on this part. If yours is a food thing, because it's easier for me to be disciplined working out than it is eating healthy. And I don't know why. I think part of my motivation to work out is so I can have deep dish pizza every once in a while. But for me, using a company like Factor 75, I think it's called, which is like they send you pre-done meals based on your diet goals, that helps take a lot of the burden off of eating incorrectly, because I make then a commitment that whenever I eat a meal, it's got to be one of those. So even if my kids want like Chick-fil-A, I'll order Chick-fil-A for them, but I'll eat a Factor meal. And that just helps me with eating more consistently in terms of my goals. Also get a nutritionist. That could be an option for some of you guys as well. So a few different options. And I've been working out, definitely a lot of meals, got back good. So let's go over this one. So what are some things that you guys wrote down of what you can do to get closer to a 10 on health consistency? This is the interactive part of the call, guys. I believe in you.
Cut out the sugar.
Cut out the sugar.
I got myself a sweet tooth. It's killing me.
Join the club, Larry. Join the club.
Manage my bedtime correctly. Because for me, it's like when my wife is asleep and now it's my pants. Yeah.
I will say I used to be team like go to bed at 2 a.m. and work from like 9 till 2 because it was quiet and get stuff done. And I am now team like fall asleep at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Just because I notice a difference in the energy that I wake up with in the morning when I go to bed closer to 9. And then if I stay up late, I just sort of wake up whenever and am not very productive when I get up in the morning. So I totally understand that. I think those are both great. So then for you guys, like, well, what's the plan to fix sugar? What's the plan to fix the bedtime issue? For me on the bedtime side, it started doing like the hardest workout of my life in the morning to kill some of my energy, so I'd be more likely to fall asleep on time at night. And then also I had to set an alarm for myself when to go to bed when I first was trying to go to sleep earlier. And that helped me. I still have some nights that I'm up later, but most of the nights I'm hitting that 9 o'clock, 9:30 goal. Okay. Number 3. I just grab my notes. Okay, financial consistency. There's an eraser in here. I don't. Okay. Hey, Leah, if you are on the call, can you grab me an eraser? All right, financial consistency. This does not mean you're just consistently looking at your bank account. That's not what this is. Or checking your bank app. I think it brings in the tiniest eraser ever seen.
Leave me alone.
All right, guys, give me 25 minutes here. We'll get through this. All right. In Leah's defense, as a leader, I did not give her
Let me find it.
direct instructions on what type of eraser. So that's on me. Okay. Financial consistency. What does this mean? Sorry, 1 second, adjusting the screen here. Okay. We talk about financial consistency. How consistent have I been when it comes to managing my money? I would say if you are not intentional about budgeting, your money will just find places to go. So are we being consistent with budgeting? Are we being consistent with allocating our funds to the right things, both for our business and personally? Are we investing? Are we keeping money? So at the end of the month, is there money left over that you're able to use towards different things? Or are you just looking at your account and going, what the hell happened? Okay, so we're going to rate ourselves 1 to 10 on this. Okay, so let's talk about how to get this to a 10, at least in my opinion. All right, step 1 of this is know your damn numbers. I remember last mastermind I was at was in Austin. It was a driven mastermind. And we were at our table, and there's 2 guys at our table that were partners in a business. And we're doing this networking exercise where we just went around and we pretty much had to talk about what is our main goal over the next 90 days and what pain from the past 90 days caused us to make this a goal for this upcoming 90 days. And when we're going through it, everyone at the table is pretty much given data for why they had some goal for the upcoming 90 days. They're given data from the previous 90 days. And there's these 2 partners at the table, and the one partner turns to the other one and he's like, hey, what's our sales, like, what are our sales numbers for the last 90 days? And the partner's like, I don't know, I thought you were tracking that. And he's like, you're the sales manager. He's like, shouldn't you know the sales number? And there's like this little back and forth that started to happen. And throughout the time at the table, they finally figured it out by calling someone else on the team that knew the numbers. But like, I could just see the frustration and the lack of clarity they had because they had no idea what their sales numbers were for the last 90 days. So they weren't really sure what they needed to fix until they got that answer. So for us, like, how well do we know our numbers? You should know exactly where you are for the month with your gross revenue, with your net billing, okay, with your closing percentage. All of those numbers are, this is step 1, guys. Like this, if you don't have this, okay, your financial consistency probably isn't very high on your self-assessment. Number 2 of this is going to be your budget, because when you know your numbers, you can then look at trends for the last 90 days and build your budget. Remember, we have the tool for you guys in martial arts systems. Okay, if you go to the CEO systems, we have the budget maximizer. Okay, it pretty much shows you like the threshold of healthy percentages for payroll, for cost of goods sold, for pretty much everything in your business. Okay, and then you put in your actual numbers and it shows you the difference between where you are and where the ideal spot is as far as what percentage of your monthly revenue is going to different places. So I would make sure you're using this if you aren't already to get a good idea of what your numbers are and sort of where you're overspending on things or overcommitting on things. And number 3 for this, I'm just going to call it account allocation. And then I'll sort of do a /profit first. Okay. What account allocation? even if you never read profit first, okay, you should at least have a separate profit account set up and a separate tax account set up. Okay, and then you're taking 15% of your deposits every month, putting it in that tax account, and then taking whatever your profit has consistently been over the last 3 months and putting it into a separate profit account. If you're not good with managing money, we're going to probably put this profit account and this tax account at a separate bank than our regular checking account. So that money is out of sight, out of mind. I have a Blue Vine account for my profit account, and I have not looked at that account probably in 9 months. Okay, just money goes in there every Friday, and it just stays there. Okay, it's out of sight, out of mind. That is probably the only number I couldn't tell you right now is how much money is in that account, because it goes in there, and I don't want to see it because I don't want to be tempted to spend it or use it for different things. Okay, when we have account allocation and profit first, okay, then the next step is going to be investing. Here's advice I would have given 25-year-old Adam on investing, because 25-year-old Adam was like, can't be that hard. Let me just invest in some crypto and invest in some stocks and stuff through Stash, and I'll figure it out. My advice to 25-year-old Adam would be get yourself a financial advisor to help with that. Okay, what I've found is the financial advisor gives you consistent investing. Okay, and then if there's other things I want to invest in, I still have like my own investments that I'll put money into on things, right? And I don't know, I would assume my financial advisor is probably beating me on return on investment compared to my own investments right now. But it's really hard to invest if you're not having money intentionally set aside for profit, because where's that money coming from? And how can you be consistent with the amount of money that you're actually investing? So making sure that we're sort of following this order will make number 4 a more consistent action. Okay, if we're not budgeting, if we don't know how much money we have going to different places, if we're not actually keeping money, there's not going to be any money left to invest. And what I tend to see is a lot of people will try and skip straight to number 4, investing. They'll put a certain amount of money into some sort of investment, and then the oh shit factor comes in next month when they're short on money because they didn't plan it accordingly to be able to invest the money that they did. And then a lot of times we see them pull it back out, and then they're getting taxed on that money, and it's a shit show. So if we're struggling on the financial part, I would follow that 4-step formula. Okay, but you have to know your numbers, which also means you should be filling out your CEO dashboard. Okay, another good incentive for you guys is we're going to start giving awards in New Orleans based on these numbers that are in your CEO dashboard. Okay, so if we're giving like highest gross revenue percentage improvements, okay, you could have the highest percentage improvement, but if you're not consistently filling out your CEO dashboard, we have no way to know that. So we're not giving you shit when it comes to getting an award in New Orleans. So and our awards are going to be cool, guys. You can actually display these in your school, and they will look hot, super high end in your school. And you get some like swag to bring home to show off to your students for how much ass you guys are kicking. But if you're not filling out those numbers, you're not going to be eligible for those. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting the opportunity to do that. Any questions on the financial side of things? I always feel like this is the area that people are afraid to ask questions on. It's probably the area that they should be asking questions on.
I just had a random question about the budget maximizer thing.
Yes.
I've been doing it, and either I missed it or I don't think it addresses taxes or like how to categorize them in that.
So you just add that as a category if you don't have it in there, and it should be 15%.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It might be, if you have a really good accountant you trust, maybe talk to them and see what percentage they would suggest. I know anyone that's using our accountants, they typically will say 15% unless you're just in a state maybe that has a lower tax ranking. but talk to your accountant. Otherwise, 15% is a good number to go with. Typically, if I do 15%, I usually have some money left over after paying taxes.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, good question. All right, number 4. Leadership consistency. All right, so for this one, again, we're going to go 1 to 10 rating. Okay, what is this? This is how consistent have I been in showing up for my team, training my team, communicating with my team, future-proofing, and vision casting. So at 1 through 10, how am I doing in those buckets? Now, if you have like multi-locations, it doesn't mean you got to be training every single employee within your locations. Your responsibility might just be training the managers or the head coaches. But whoever is directly below you, how consistent are you with communication with them, training them, future-proofing them, all of that stuff? I would say this in the last 2 to 3 months is probably one of my lowest scores, I feel like. Just with all the things that have been happening. Like, I don't think I've been consistent with this. And it's funny because part of my reason for wanting to go through and do an audit, like at this time of year, was because I felt I was lacking in this area. So I wanted to come up with a plan how to make it better. Okay, so we're going to rate ourselves 1 through 10. And then, again, what needs to happen to turn my current score into a 10? So for some of us, maybe we just need consistent meetings with our team to start this process. I've yet to see a martial arts school like absolutely crushing it without consistently having team meetings with their managers or head coaches or consistent team trainings. Right? To me, it is a requirement and part of the formula for success. Who wants to share their score and what they feel like needs to happen for them to get to a 10?
I gave myself a 9, just because with our restructuring, I've been taking on more of the duties with the team and running basically all the meetings. I think an area that I'm definitely lacking is future proofing now and getting that next group trained.
Okay, awesome. Good self-awareness on that, Adam. What else we got? Give me another one.
I'm also scoring myself highly on this one for 9. We're trying to put together all the pieces for next location, and so I feel like my people are pumped, and we've had so many conversations about like what this means career-wise. But we've missed some trainings though, so I could be overrating myself. But yeah,
a good one to do too. With this one, if you just want to sort of stress test your own rating, ask your managers and head coaches, or if you have a business partner, to give you a rating on your leadership consistency. Because it'll give a good, and make sure you like tell them to be brutally honest, but it'll give a good comparison for you on sort of how you feel compared to what is perceived.
We're actually reading. Sorry. We're actually reading I think it's the 5 levels of leadership, one of the John Maxwell books. Yep. And right at the beginning is like the assessments and stuff. And I was very hard on myself, but my team, when they assessed me, I was floored on their perception of me. So, I mean, I definitely am kind of honored that they feel like I'm doing all the things that they need and whatnot. And also, I feel like I wish I was doing more.
See, I was just about to say, sometimes the opposite happens, like you just said, Karen, also, where we'll score ourselves lower and our team's like, no, you're actually kicking ass. I can identify with that for sure. I don't remember who I was talking to. Maybe I was telling you this, Karen, I think on Messenger. but I was invited to speak at Bejal's event, and she asked me to speak on leadership, and it was sort of right in the midst of all of this stuff happening with Travis and Ashley. And I was at dinner with her and Taylor, and I sort of joked, and I was like, it's sort of crazy you want me to speak on leadership with all this stuff going on. And Taylor looked at me and was like, actually, he goes, you should be the person speaking on leadership. He goes, what you don't understand, Adam, he's like, we can all lead when everything's going right. He's like, anyone can be a leader when everything's going right and all the ducks are in a row. He's like, when shit is hitting the fan and you're still able to lead and grow your company, he's like, that's when true leadership emerges. And he's like, that's exactly why you should be up there talking about leadership. So for me, I was getting down on myself. I didn't feel confident. I had an imposter syndrome going to do a presentation on leadership. And it was good to have that outside perspective of like, no, this is exactly why you should be teaching leadership. So I totally identify with that, Karen. Anyone else want to share?
I need to do consistent reviews with my managers.
I love that.
Give them specific goals of what I want them to work on. I'm doing a good job with the weekly meetings and the one-on-ones, and I let them know what I want them to work on, but having, that quarterly review just to kind of say, here's where I think you're at. Where do you think you're at? And then discussing and really nailing in on the differences in, performance.
Yeah, what I would encourage you to do right after this call, Larry, is go schedule those in your calendar. Like go put them on for each quarter. So that way you'll see it pop back up and it'll just keep it on front of mind. Thank you for sharing that. All right, let's go to number 5. Okay, 5 is family consistency. Okay, again, we're going to go 1 through 10. Okay, this might not apply to everyone, but those of you guys that have spouses, significant others, kids, maybe it's just family like parents, brothers, sisters. But how consistent are you in showing up for your family / significant other? Are we intentionally making time? And is the time focused on them? Or is it sitting in a room with them while you're focused on work? Big difference in those, right? So if we had to rate ourselves on family consistency right now, 1 through 10, what does that look like? This is probably, I think, the strongest for me right now. I'd say I'm at a 9 or a 10 on this. I think recent events pushed me to be closer to a 10. But it's funny, I always go back, and I've probably talked about this too much in our coaching calls, when Cameron Harold walked in our office and just sort of looked around, and first thing he said to me was like, none of this matters. And I was like, what, dude? I was like, well, what does that mean? He was like, none of this matters. And I was like, I brought you out here for my podcast so we could like talk about business and stuff. And he's like, Adam, he's like, you're building a great thing here. It's awesome. He's like, none of it fucking matters. He's like, the only thing that matters is relationships and your family. He's like, all of this other stuff. He's like, you could lose all the businesses, all the money, and if you still have relationships, you're still going to be happy. He's like, but if you switch it the other way around, and he goes, you only focus business and money, he's like, then if you lose the family, no amount of business and no amount of money is going to fill that hole that you're missing. So that makes total sense, right? So this one, to me, I think it personally is like the most important ranking on here, because for my own self-worth and what that is comprised of, falls a lot on how I show up as a husband and a dad to my kids. So for us, let's rate ourselves on 1 to 10, and the same question: what needs to happen in order to take us from a wherever score we are now to a 10? Okay, do we need to time block time for our family? Taylor Welch's dad wrote a book that I just started listening to today, so I can't even like tell you I've read the whole book yet. It is called Legacy Navigator, I believe. Let me get the actual title up. Yeah, The Legacy Navigator. So it's by Taylor Welch's dad, Lucas Welch. It's a gold book. But in this, you think legacy, and our first thought is like, oh, like money to like send to our kids so that they can build their own legacy. And it's really more than that. It's like your legacy is like the conversations that you have with your kids and the things that you teach with your kids and the consistency that happens. And one of the things that Taylor was talking about in his dad's book, he did the foreword, is he was talking about how his dad, every single week, they would go and sit down and his dad would just spend an hour with him just teaching him. Just any and everything. Okay, whether it was teaching about business or it was teaching about money, they would have an hour a week where they would just sit down together. And that was his dad. Part of what his dad was doing to pass on his legacy to Taylor was having those focused time every single week to actually just pour into his son. Okay, and it's that knowledge and those moments are the things that obviously just from hearing Taylor talk are things that he valued and cherished growing up and saw that as his dad passing his legacy down to him. And it had nothing to do with finances or money. So for me, like listening to that, I was like, oh, well, one thing I can do better to get to a 10 is like, I want to start doing a weekly meeting with my oldest son, Grayson, who's 9 now, where we just go to a coffee shop for an hour and I just teach him about life. And I just teach him the things I know he's going to need to be successful later on. So whatever that looks like for you guys of just how do we up that to a higher level? And maybe it's just giving yourself an end time every single day that, hey, I'm no matter what going to stop at this time so that I can go and have family focused time. Okay. And then just like during work time, okay, if I'm in deep work, I turn off all my notifications. I put my phone on do not disturb, right? When it's family time, guess what happens? My phone goes on do not disturb. Okay, because I'm focused on family time. Right? I know on iPhones, I don't know about Android phones, but on iPhones, if they're in your favorites, it'll still let their call come through on do not disturb. Okay, so for example, if it's my manager or if it's Kelly, they're in my favorites. So if there is an emergency and they call, it still comes through do not disturb. But any other calls, it blocks those while I'm focused on family time. Karen, I find I need more balance with family things. I'm hyper-focused on supporting one of my kids who's struggling and wonder if I'm not giving enough to the others and our household and my husband. Yeah, I think that's a great self-aware observation, Karen. What I would start with maybe encourage you is just see if you can do like a kid date with one of the other kids where it's just you and them taking them out. I find having 3 kids, and obviously they're all young, so I don't have that much parenting experience. But I tend to see that they value more the one-on-one time with both me and Crystal, or with one-on-one with Crystal, or one-on-one with me, and they see that as like almost special time that they get. So that I know has helped us on that front. 7 family consistency. I feel like I've grown immensely in that. I used to be a 0 when I started. Yeah. The other thing too, guys, is like, don't like shit on yourselves if you have a low score in one of these areas. The whole reason we're doing a self-assessment is seeing how we can get better and really show up as the most optimized version of ourselves. Okay. Number 6. Back to the top so everyone can see. All right. I'm gonna get my things down. Spiritual consistency is 6. And this is going to look different for every single person. All right. My spiritual consistency may be defined much differently than yours. For me, I'm religious, so this is like my relationship with God and how often I'm reading the Bible or praying or just having conversations. For a lot of us, it might be like, just, do we have like inner peace? Okay. Or is there turmoil that's sort of tearing us apart inside? For some of us, it might just be finding time to have quiet. Okay. And to quiet all the noise from being an entrepreneur and running businesses and putting out fires and dealing with problems. Okay. This might also be, if you're not a religious person, might be worded as like just peace. Like, what does your peace look like? And how consistently are you focusing on developing peace for yourself, peace of mind, and making time for that. Not that it really matters. I grew up not really in a religious household. I had a grandmother that was a great influence on me that was super religious. But like my spiritual journey was sort of been like this my whole life. Okay, it goes in waves for me. And recently, I would say I've been way more involved in focus and spiritual consistency. But part of the reason it goes in waves is because I realized I wasn't actually blocking time out for it besides like Sundays to go to church. So for me, improving this, part of what I wrote down to get it closer to a 10 was actually be intentional about, well, what times am I having those conversations with God? What times am I actually focusing on this throughout the week because I wasn't time blocking for it? So I want you guys just rate yourself 1 to 10. Again, whatever that spiritual consistency looks like for you, I'm not going to define it for you, but rate yourself 1 to 10, and then just throw in there what you feel like needs to happen in order for you to get closer to a 10. And again, my goal is not to tell you what to think or what to believe. It's just what does that peace look like for you, and how intentional are we about finding it? Okay, and then we got one more we're going to touch on. And number 7, last one, best one, sir. Okay, output consistency. All right, what is output consistency? Output consistency is how consistent are we with actually creating results and like getting the output that we're looking for, right? We're inputting this energy, we're inputting this time, we're inputting strategies, plans, systems, but what does the output consistency look like? Okay, so how consistent are we in getting those results? And then this is going to be more, let's focus on the business for this right now for output consistency, because it'll be a bit more specific. Okay, and it could be, maybe I don't have enough input to get the desired output, meaning maybe I'm not focused enough right now or spending enough time producing and putting the energy in to get the energy out. Okay, maybe we've fallen off with implementation. Okay, maybe we've fallen off with just laziness or procrastination. Okay, but what is my output right now? And like 10 should be like, we are running on all cylinders. Like I have the gas pedal to the floor and my manager is pushing my knee down even harder to go faster. That to me is like 10. 10 is when like your team's coming to you and being like, hey, can we slow down a little bit? That's what I think is 10. So where are we? And then what needs to happen to get us from where we are now to a 10? So I would love to hear from you guys. What is your output score right now? And then what needs to change to get that score higher? So let's get interactive on this one a bit.
I think I'm a 6 right now if I'm looking at it. And again, I keep going back to the implementation. I have tons of projects that I have open. So I have like open projects that I'm working on, things that I'm trying to implement. And I think I just have too many of them done at once. So I have a focus 3 that I'll do 3 results for each day. If I can just get focused on the top 3 results that I need to have focused each day, I think I can reduce my open projects and increase my output.
I love that. I think that the other thing that I will sometimes do with that scenario, Larry, is I will try and block out a whole day to just like get one of like the major tasks done. Like over the weekend, I did that with the mastermind website. I was like, I'm tired of this being on my list. So I'm like, I'm just going to spend one day and do the whole thing.
I got myself at like a 4. Like I'm looking at the stuff I'm getting done, and I'm leaning into my comfort zone. Whereas, like, for example, I know that we're looking at the second school, and so I'm like, yeah, but the first school, the marketing isn't where I want it, so I need to do the thing that gets the marketing back to where I want it. But I love online marketing, and I need to find other opportunities. So I've got myself at a 4 because, like, I'm not doing the work that matters.
Yeah, I love your honesty on that, Carson. It was funny. We had a similar talk with my manager a couple weeks ago, where we had a lull in like leads for 2 weeks, and online leads. And she's like, we need to put more money in advertising. And I was like, well, are we doing all the other things on this omni-channel marketing list right now to get leads? And the answer is no. And I was like, well, we have to be like prepared to overcome lulls and still have consistent leads coming in. So that's on us for not doing other things. But I like where your thinking is with that. Yeah, I'm going to also throw this up here because us as entrepreneurs suck at this. We need to practice just saying no more to things. It's funny. I have a friend who I've known in the business world for a while. We've come closer as we've done the masterminds, and their whole model for business is buying the most boring, simple businesses possible. So what do they have? They own ice machines. They own ATM machines. They own self-serve car washes. That's the only 3 businesses that they will open. They get offered to invest in things all the time because their businesses are super profitable. They say no to everything unless it's in one of those 3 categories because they know it's simple, it's easy to operate. They don't need to overcomplicate anything in those businesses. Those businesses just sort of run themselves. For us as entrepreneurs, we're like, well, look at this new shiny service over here. Let's go try that out. And then we're like, oh, wait, look at this like new class we can add. Let's go focus on that. And then we're like, oh yeah, there's also like these new software tools and AI. We should go look at that. And then we're like, oh, we see this guy making money this way. Let's go add other new shiny thing over here. And then like, meanwhile, you're going in circles and missing like the 3 or 4 things in your business that matter more than all of those new shiny things. My team always comes up to me with ideas of stuff that they want to add. And I know the hell out of them constantly because I know it's going to overcomplicate the business. It's going to split our focus up in too many areas. So I think for all of us, we need to get really good at just being comfortable saying no to all the shiny shit. I always like, just like from putting myself in your guys' shoes, since I'm in masterminds also, the masterminds that I'm in, they introduce new tools and new AI stuff like constantly. And always what my rule is I will wait for one of my mentors to use it and test it, and then tell me if it's actually worth using after that. And if they go through it and they test it and they're like, hey, this thing kicks ass, we think you should use it, or we think this could help your business, then I will go and look at it. I am never, and think what you want, I will never be like the beta tester of like, oh, I'm going to be the first one trying this, because I know me being the first one doing it, beta testing and going through all the testing is just going to be a waste of time down the road. It's helping the person I'm beta testing for more than it's helping me. So I will say no until I actually see it proven and working. And yeah, so you guys can use me for that as well. All right. So 7 categories, self-assessment. What I would like you guys to do, you guys have rated yourself 1 through 10 on all of these things. Add up your total score. So it'll be out of 70. But here's what I'm going to say is okay, 70 is like you are maximizing your potential. You are living the best version of yourself. And then we got 0 over here. I don't think anyone is a 70, myself included. I'm definitely not a 70. We're all probably sort of living in this area. Okay, and since we're entrepreneurs and we're growth-minded and growth-focused people, as soon as we get better at things, we're probably going to raise the bar on what a 10 is for ourselves, which is normal. It's almost recommended. So you keep our shooting for more and going for the next thing. But my goal with this thing is for you guys just to be honest with yourself on like, what do I need to shift my focus into? What do I need to be doing better, be more intentional about with my role as being the leader and the CEO and the founder of this business, so that I can show up as the best version of myself. And now that it's June, I would say there's a couple other things that I'm going to give you guys as homework that we should be doing. Okay, so this is technically like end of Q2. So we should be doing our Q2 audit. Okay, we have the audit sheet with the training in martial arts systems. Should also be doing our fresh lens audit. Okay, that's where we walk through our school. And Disney calls it like a leadership walk, but you walk through your school and you're pretty much auditing the appearance and experience of the school. Whenever I do a fresh lens audit, I always do it with at least my head coach and my manager. Okay, so all three of us will have our own audit sheet. We will score it independently, and then we will meet afterwards on the scores and what we need to change, fix, or improve in the facility. Okay, performance reviews should also be happening in June. Okay, and those use the scorecards we have, the performance scorecards in martial arts systems. We have one for like every single role in your school. You can edit them to be exactly what you want. But these three things should be our homework as CEOs and leaders over the next week. What I'm going to encourage you guys to do is immediately after this call, time block these out on your calendar. So what day and time are you going to do the fresh lens audit? What day and time are you going to do your Q2 audit? I would say Q2 audit, give a good hour for this. If you have your numbers easily accessible and known, it'll be faster. Okay, fresh lens audit, you can probably do with your team in under 30 minutes. Okay, performance reviews. Okay, you got to remember there is prep that needs to go into these reviews, all right? So with the performance reviews, remember, I'm going to give my team members one to fill out for themselves, so they'll self-assess, and then I will also fill out one for them. When I do this, the manager and I do it together. Okay, so the manager and I will fill out the score for each team member. They'll also fill it out for themselves, and then we meet and we compare notes, and then we give them goals for the next 90 days on where we want to see improvements. And then usually at this time, we're also going to be talking about hours and pay. Okay, and then as always, anytime you meet one-on-one, we're future casting. Okay, we're always talking about the future. Okay, questions, comments? Was this helpful today? Hopefully it was a good, just get us back on track and get us refocused meeting. All right, that's all I got, guys. Thank you for joining us on the call. I think I have some calls with a bunch of you guys individually today, so I'll see some of you guys soon. Thanks, everyone.
We're unstoppable. To the top, we about to go. That CEO, I need to know the impact we about to grow. Competition comical. Straight A1, we on the road. Money focus for the goal. Tell them what they need to know. We unstoppable.